Hello and welcome to World Today. I'm Geeta Mohan and we begin with the big international story of the day. Canadian elections, and what an election it has been. A not so unexpected win for Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party thanks to US President Donald Trump, and the biggest upset of all, the main opposition face and Canadian Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre losing his seat in the House of Commons to Liberal Party candidate Bruce Fanjoy. There have been many serious upsets this election, but let us focus on the fact that Mark Carney is set to become the next Prime Minister, riding the nationalistic wave against Trump's imperialistic plans.
We'll work with the Prime Minister and all parties.
Mark Carney broke out in a dance to celebrate the Liberals' win in the Canada election. Though his party falls short of the majority mark of 172 by a few seats, it's time for them to celebrate. Mark Carney didn't forget the real reason for his win in this election and was fought so closely with the Conservatives.
Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade, anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over.
The Liberals capped a stunning turnaround in fortunes fueled by the US President Donald Trump's annexation threats and trade war. The Liberals looked headed for a crushing defeat until the American president started attacking Canada's economy and threatening its sovereignty, suggesting it should become the 51st state. Trump's actions infuriated Canadians and stoked a surge in nationalism that helped the Liberals flip the election narrative and win a fourth straight term in power.
You know, I chose to enter politics because I felt we needed big changes in this country, but big changes guided by strong Canadian values.
And with this minority mandate, 60-year-old Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is all poised to lead the Maple country in the fight against Donald Trump's America. Bureau Report, India Today.
A political giant falls in Canada and the ripple effects are felt all the way in New Delhi. Jagmeet Singh, once a kingmaker and a loud voice against India, is out. His party crushed, his influence gone. Now with a political reset, could this be the turning point in India-Canada ties?
We may lose sometimes, and those losses hurt, it's tough. But we are only defeated if we stop fighting.
Canada's once kingmaker Jagmeet Singh is out, defeated by his British Columbia seat of Burnaby Central. His New Democratic Party collapsed in the just concluded Canada elections to just 7 seats. It is not even enough to qualify as a national party in Canada. For India, this could turn out to be the reset it has been waiting for. Because Jagmeet wasn't just another politician. He was the face of the pro-Khalistani push in Canadian politics, often louder than even the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Jagmeet Singh repeatedly accused the Indian government of assassinating Hardeep Singh Nijjar, and that too without evidence. India designated Nijjar as a designated Khalistani terrorist. His alliance with Trudeau gave those accusations weight and triggered a diplomatic storm in 2024 spring. Diplomats were expelled, trade talks frozen, and India-Canada ties hit their lowest point in decades. Jagmeet Singh resigned after the defeat, and now that voice is drowned.
Tonight, I've been informed a party leader that I'll be stepping down as party leader as soon as an interim leader can be appointed.
His exit follows a Canadian Commission report that found no foreign hand in Nijjar's death, without any credible evidence. It was Jagmeet Singh's just political theatre to win mileage in the ruling government. His loss also signals a symbolic retreat of Khalistani influence in Ottawa. With Jagmeet Singh out and Mark Carney's more centrist liberal government in power, there is finally space to rebuild Indo-Canada trade, student ties and diplomacy. With Rudrashish Kanjilal, Bureau Report, India Today.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney in his last campaign rally right before the election signalled that he may reset ties with New Delhi when he comes to power, describing the relationship with India as incredibly important. Listen in.
It's an incredibly important relationship, the Canadian-Indian relationship, on many levels. On the personal level, with Canadians, many deep personal ties, economically, strategically, very important. There are strains on that relationship that we didn't cause, to be clear, but there is a path forward to address those. With mutual respect. Countries like Canada, like India specifically, can play an outsized role in building an open, shared economy.
Dr. Vagish Savarwal, member of People's Party of Canada, also himself a candidate this election. He fought the elections from King Vaughan constituency, joins me to discuss the elections and a little more on India-Canada ties. Dr. Savarwal, thank you so much for joining us here on World Today. Let's begin with the election. Was it on expected lines? Because we do know that a lot of things shifted and changed after Trump's massive policy shift and statements and position on Canada.
I believe the election result was a bit surprising. It was not expected, at least a few months ago, that the Liberals would be able to make the comeback that they did. Nonetheless, I congratulate Prime Minister Carney. I congratulate every person who stood in this election. It's not easy to do so. And I hope and I pray that we work together so that we can bring forward the solutions that our nation needs.
Dr. Vagish, the fact that over here we're looking at a Liberal Party comeback, how does that play out with India and the past relations with Trudeau in power? Again, a Liberal Party face was not really a happy moment for India. Do you think, like Mark Carney said, he'd want to reset ties? Do you think that's going to happen with India?
I believe it will be in the best interest of Canada to reopen that dialogue at minimum. I do not see any advantage of shutting India out. India is it's an emerging superpower, and it will be in the best interest of Canada to engage in that dialogue. That is my personal opinion.
Right. Dr. Sabarwal, again, you know, one of the biggest upsets, apart from Pierre Poilievre, was NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Massive message from Canada, from Canadians, that the Khalistani movement, this anti-India Khalistan movement that took roots in Canada really is not going to work. And the politics of that country is changing with a change and eye towards India.
I believe this election has clearly demonstrated that the Canadian electoral system is going towards a two-party system, in which the NDP in this round has lost significant ground. In as far as was the Canadian electorate thinking about Indo-Canadian relationships when they went to the ballot box, I think that may be a little bit of a stretch. I believe at this time, Canadians are primarily concerned about the relationship that we have with the United States of America. And Canadians believe that they need stability. They need the type of leader who can demonstrate calmness. And that's why they've given Prime Minister Carney the opportunity to take Canada to the negotiating table with the United States. And I believe all parties, including my party, we did not prove to the electorate that we can stand up, and we have to accept that defeat.
Well, that's right. Accepting defeat with a lot of grace over here. Dr. Vageesh Sabharwal, thank you so much for joining us. It is an important moment in Canada when it comes to the elections. We'll have to wait and see how Mark Carney takes relations forward, not just with India, but particularly with the United States of America, given the kind of ties and relations that they're having right now and the trouble they're having with the Trump administration. Now, India has been striking back at Pakistan daily since the Pahalgam terror attack. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a crucial meeting on the situation along the India-Pakistan borders and the LOC a week after the Pahalgam terror attack. The meeting was attended by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan, and chiefs of all three forces, Army, Navy and the Air Force. Over the 90-minute-long meeting, Prime Minister affirmed that it is India's national resolve to deal a crushing blow to terrorism. He expressed complete faith and confidence in the professional abilities of the Indian Armed Forces and said that they have complete operational freedom to decide on the mode, targets and timing of response. India first acted by halting the Indus Waters Treaty. Following the water move, India revoked visas for Pakistani nationals and blocked several Pakistan-based YouTube handles. India has also shut down its airspace and ports for Pakistan as the next step. After India blocked the official X handle of the Pakistani army, it now has blocked the X handle of Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif for disseminating misinformation. Now, Pakistan is indeed rattled after India's display of its combat might. Pakistan Army violated ceasefire along the international border in Pragwal sector of Jammu this evening. And this wasn't the first. Pakistani Army violated ceasefire for the fifth straight day from Lipa Valley, Kupwara and Baramulla north of Pir Panjal and Poonch and Akhnur south of Pir Panjal. The Pakistan Armed Forces have also begun a series of air and ground exercises. Pakistan Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif chaired an emergency meeting to decide the next step in response to India's water strike. Pakistan also issued a NOTAM, a notice to airmen sealing off airspace over Lahore and Islamabad. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar has threatened that war is certain if water is stopped. Earlier, Pakistani Defence Minister Khwaja Asif said that India's military incursion into Pakistan is imminent, adding that more troops have been reinforced by Pakistani army at the border.
अगर आपने हमारे पानी के साथ कोई गड़बड़ की, ये तो पेपर पे है ना, ना बहस वही है, तो हम फिर ये एक जंग तस्वर होगी, क्योंकि ये 240 मिलियन लोगों की लाइफ लाइन है, उनकी एग्रीकल्चर, हमें पानी ऑब्वियसली एक बुनियादी जरूरत है हर एक की, तो इसलिए इसमें कोई कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं होगा.
After Iran, China now reiterates the need for choosing diplomatic route and exercising restraint between India and Pakistan yet again. Meanwhile, voices are rising across the world showing support for the Pahalgam cause. And this time, it's not only American Hindus, but also Jewish, Christian communities and local lawmakers who are joining in solidarity. In New York, loud protests unfolded in Times Square with slogans seeking Pakistan to be declared a terrorist state. Demonstrators gathered around the Pakistan consulate to condemn the Pahalgam terror attack. Similar protests played out in Chicago, where demonstrators gathered around the Pakistan consulate demanding accountability and international attention to Islamabad's role as state sponsor of terrorism. States like Texas and Ohio also saw gatherings and community-led events where protesters expressed solidarity with India and the Pahalgam victims. Beyond the United States of America, Germany too is witnessing rising protests, with rallies in Frankfurt where crowd marched with banners and chants against terror. Nepalese citizens staged protests against Pakistan in Kathmandu, where Pahalgam terror attack was at the forefront of their protests. Holding banners and posters, they also castigated Pakistani army chief for his anti-Hindu remarks. One Nepalese citizen was killed by terrorists in Pahalgam terror attack on the 22nd of April. US President Donald Trump completes 100 days in office in his second presidency. It's been very different from his first term, and the biggest difference has been the presence of Tesla CEO. Elon Musk spent years building a cachet as a business titan and tech visionary, brushing aside critics and skeptics to become the richest person on the planet. But as Musk gained power in Washington in Trump 2.0, his popularity has waned. One of the recent polls found that just 33% of US adults have a favorable view of Musk. The chainsaw-wielding, late-night posting, campaign hat-wearing public face of President Donald Trump's efforts to downsize and overhaul the federal government. That share is down from 41% in December, but it still is very much a Muskified Trump 2.0 in the Oval Office.
Donald Trump in his second presidency has a strong billionaire backing, active in his moves, Elon Musk. They match each other in moves and vibes. To Trump's fist-pumping moves, Musk goes around with his chainsaw signature gestures.
This is
Musk's son, Lil X, is there in the Oval Office with the president and even matches his moves while walking across the lawn to his aircraft. Musk and Trump, and together in this through and through as the Doge chief, Elon Musk has full support from the US president.
Elon is here to give you a summary of what's happening, some of the things they found, some of the horrible things they found, some of the theft and fraud, and we call it waste and abuse, but a lot of fraud, and probably some fraud that we're not going to be able to prove is fraud, but when you hear the names and the places where this money's going, it's a disgrace.
Well, I actually just call myself a humble tech support here, because this is actually, as crazy as it sounds, that is almost a literal description of the work that the Doge team is doing.
But this support to the Trump administration has cost the Tesla CEO heavy as far as his business is concerned. His actions as Doge chief got more and more Americans to attack Tesla in America. Musk's support for right-wing leadership also hit his Tesla showrooms in Europe hard with protests. So much so that Elon Musk himself admitted that his political action is costing his entrepreneurship adversely. There were speculations that he might quit White House administration, but then he had the president standing by him. And he stays on, for the time being, till his mission Doge is not over, until Trump administration remains Muskified. Bureau Report, India Today.
Is it Amazon versus Trump administration? On Tuesday, the White House said that Amazon's plans to list tariff costs are hostile and political. Speaking at a briefing alongside Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Amazon has partnered with the Chinese propaganda arm. She further attacked Amazon at Tuesday's briefing with reporters by suggesting it was un-American. Listen in.
I will take this since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
Let's now take a look at some other stories from across the world and World at a Glance.
Spain and Portugal switched their power back on after the worst blackout in their history. Though authorities offered little explanation for what had caused it or how they would prevent it from happening again, investigations are going on. Spanish power company Red Eléctrica has ruled out a cyber attack as the cause of Monday's mass blackouts that left millions without power. Commuters battled with delays to get back to work after an outage that had left people stranded in lifts and cut off from the contact with their families. Disgraced Cardinal Becciu of Italy formally announced his withdrawal from participation in conclave to elect next pope. Cardinal Becciu is the most senior Catholic Church official ever to stand trial before a Vatican criminal court for embezzlement and financial fraud. He was sentenced to 5.5 years in jail in December 2023. He denied all wrongdoings and is free pending an appeal. Pope Francis fired Cardinal Becciu from a senior Vatican job in 2020 and accused him of embezzlement. The European Court of Justice on Tuesday said that Malta needs to end its Golden Passport program that allows wealthy foreigners to buy citizenship, as it is an infringement of EU law. The EU Commission in 2022 took Malta to court over the scheme, which grants foreigners a passport and thereby the right to live and work in any EU country in return for an investment of around €1 million.
Jeff Bezos' Amazon successfully rocketed its first batch of internet satellites into orbit on Monday. With this move, Amazon makes the latest entry in the mega constellation market currently dominated by SpaceX's thousands of Starlinks. The United Launch Alliance's Atlas V rocket carried up 27 of Amazon's Project Kuiper satellites. They're named after the frigid fringes of our solar system beyond Neptune. Once released in orbit, the satellites will eventually reach an altitude of nearly 630 kilometers. These latest satellites are also coated with a mirror film designed to scatter reflected sunlight in an attempt to accommodate astronomers. In coming days, Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin and Amazon aim to put more than 3,200 of these satellites into orbit to provide fast, affordable broadband service around the globe, in a direct challenge to Elon Musk's SpaceX and Starlink.
Moving at 1,700 miles an hour.
Cake, gifts, and a low-key family celebration may be how many senior citizens celebrate their 70th birthday. But that's not how NASA's oldest full-time astronaut, Don Pettit, wanted his 70th birthday to be celebrated. Don Pettit marked his 70th birthday on the 20th of April by plunging through the atmosphere in a Russian Soyuz capsule to wrap up a 7-month mission at the International Space Station. But return to Earth after 220 days wasn't a pleasant experience for the 70-year-old. So what was the experience of weightlessness like for him? Listen in to his experience.
I love being in space, Marcia. It makes me feel like I'm 30 years old again. And you know, you sleep in your bed, you wake up in the morning, your shoulder, it's like that. You know, this neck is stiffened. And all that kind of stuff heals up because you're sleeping, you're just floating. And your body, all these little aches and pains and everything heal up. And you feel like you're 30 years old again. I'm only 70, so I've got a few more good years left. I could see getting another flight or two in before I'm ready to.
Though he admits that the whole experience of weightlessness made him feel decades younger, with everyday aches and pains vanishing, Petit threw up all over the Kazakh steppes upon touchdown, the result of feeling gravity for the first time in 220 days. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World Today. Goodbye and take care.